All right, we are here for sharing their stories, voices of remembrance. Lynn and I are your facilitators. Lynn is our scholar. She is our director of Holocaust scholarship and our international coordinator and keeps everything moving at Teach the Shoah. I'm the storytelling director, and Stephanie Coenen is our featured teller. So we can go. Oh, and there is the Badehaus Museum. So you can see for those of us in the States or in Israel who have never been, now we get a little sense.
So we are Teach the Shoah, and we teach the Holocaust through storytelling. We run different programs like the program you're going to see today. We also run storytelling classes. We have information that is useful for teachers, for docents, for Holocaust guides. We run courses, seminars, workshops, and many more. Please visit our website to learn more about us. Stephanie, could you please introduce you as our partner organization today?
Yes, of course. So I'm the representative of the Erinnerungsort Badehaus, and our mission is from the past to the future. We are a place of remembrance, of encounter and learning, and in the course of the evening, I will be introducing to you more about our place.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. So, we usually begin our programs with a bit of guided imagery. Because we deal with Holocaust content, our motto is safely in and safely out. So we will lead you in safely into this joint place that we have together here. Jennifer, would you like to guide us through, please?
Thank you, Lynn. Yes. So we're going to take just a minute or two to settle ourselves. Please feel free to go off camera for this if you would like. You can come back on afterwards. And if you would like to stay on camera and just close your eyes or go into your own space, that is lovely as well. So I invite you to take a breath and feel that breath not only in your lungs, expanding your lungs, giving you fresh air, but see if you can allow that breath all the way down your body toward your feet. And this is a great opportunity to feel your feet on the floor and that connection with the earth. And with your next breath, allow your spine to align, your head to float upward a little bit, and just feel yourself aligned and comfortable here. And as you breathe in and out, just allow yourself to go to a peaceful place, a listening place, where all the things that have happened today, that are happening beyond the walls of your home or wherever you are, to let them take a step back so that you can slide forward into our welcoming space and prepare yourself to listen and learn and be present with Stephanie and the story we are so fortunate to be able to share in today. Let's take one more breath. Let it out slowly. And when you're ready, no rush, come back with us to be both welcomed and welcoming in our space that we are creating together today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jennifer. So our plan for this evening or this afternoon, if you're in the States. So we started with our guided imagery. We will next listen to a story. Stephanie will be telling us this story. And afterwards, we will appreciate, we will notice what happened to us while we were listening to this story, and we will give appreciations to Stephanie. After which, Stephanie will delve into the storytelling process. She will share with us how she built the story, and she will share her primary sources that she used for this. Our program today is planned for 60 minutes. After which, if anybody can and is willing to share, we will run a short 30-minute workshop, which is a taste of Holocaust storytelling. You'll get the chance to try for a few minutes to do this for yourself. So you're all welcome to stay, but whoever will need to leave right after the official ending, we totally understand, and you're always welcome to come back to any of our programs.
Thank you, Lynn. That was a lovely introduction. So we just want to remind you, we know you are here at Teach the Shoah, and we know you are here from Badehaus, and you know that these stories are Holocaust stories, but we just want to remind you to take care of yourself and feel free to be on screen, to be off screen, to take a breath, to get some water, whatever you need as you listen to the stories. We're so glad that you are present with us. And
You're
now,
also welcome to use the chat. Only please refrain from using the chat while Stephanie will be telling, as this may be distracting for her. But please feel free to use it before and after as much as you want.
thank you, Lynn. And also, if you need to write to Lynn or to myself privately, you can use the chat for that.
Yes, at any time.
Exactly. Thank you so much. All right. So now I have the privilege of introducing both Stephanie and her story, her subject. So our storyteller is Stephanie Coenen. Stephanie works as a volunteer at the Place of Remembrance Badehaus near Munich, Germany. This is a place where the history of the Jewish displaced persons who had survived the Holocaust can be experienced. At Badehaus, Stephanie is a liaison for contemporary witnesses. She is a museum educator, and she also works with the collection and exhibits. She is co-editor of the book Lebensbilder, comprising 34 portraits of former DPs, displaced persons. And the book is published by Badehaus. Stephanie works full-time as a teacher at a vocational school for social pedagogy, where she teaches early childhood educators. Such, as we know, important, essential work. So now we're going to hear a little bit, just a taste about this story and the Badehaus, because you're going to learn most of this by listening to Stephanie. In the Place of Remembrance, Badehaus, located near Munich in Germany, a unique history of migration can be experienced. In 1939, the Nazis built Camp Ferienwald for forced laborers in the arms industry. At the end of World War II, the concentration camp Death March passed nearby. Then the camp was a temporary home for Jewish displaced persons who had survived the Holocaust. In 1956, people of German origin who were expelled from Eastern Europe were relocated here. Today, it is a vivid place of remembrance, encounter, and learning. We thank you so much, and we thank Stephanie. So Stephanie, we're going to spotlight you, take your time, and when you are ready, we are ready to listen.
Oh, they were here again, I said to my sister, the canaries. Some of the people who would come to the bath of my sister and me had yellow hair, yellow skin, and yellow clothes. They were yellow all over. And the water in our baths couldn't remove these horrible stains. My sister and I, we felt so sorry for these innocent men and women. I cannot remember when my sister stopped her active life as a bathhouse of the camp. I was so busy with my own affairs over the years, looking after so many people. Oh boy, there were so many, thousands of them. Now I'm over 80 years old, and my memory plays tricks on me. But I do remember that my sister was demolished a decade ago. So sad. Sorry, sister, I miss you. They replaced you by a profitable housing complex. In fact, that was going to happen to me too. But luckily, I'm still here. Let me tell you my story. My sister and I, we share the same year of birth, 1939, on two neighboring plots at a very central position of Camp Föhrenwald, a settlement in the south of Germany near Munich. On my birth certificate, my address reads Danziger Freiheit, Föhrenwald. Föhrenwald being the name of the settlement around my sister and me, and Danziger Freiheit, my street name. Freiheit, ironically meaning freedom. Apart from the same year of birth, my sister and I shared the same purpose. We served as bathhouses of the camp. She for the women and I for the male residents. The solid terraced houses did have running water, but no hot water, no bathtubs or toilets or showers. My twin sisters and my attire was the Nazi style of the 1930s, slightly rounded arches, protruding corners, pointed gables, rough plaster, and windows and shutters typical of the time and the area. My intestines were an assembly room, changing cubicles, toilets, showers, and baths. The beneficiaries of my intestines were arms workers in two nearby arms factories. They were people from 18 different nations. They were German drafted laborers and foreign civil workers. For example, French women who were unemployed and were looking for a job. But there were also forced laborers. They were not all treated alike. For example, the Russians and the Ukrainians, they were made to wear badges on their clothes according to their ethnic origin. From 1941 to 1945, these laborers were producing explosives and munition that were used for the military campaigns of the Nazis. Imagine the perversion of fate. They were forced to produce explosives that were used to destroy their home countries. The picric acid used for the production of the explosives left this bright yellow color on their hair and on their skin and on their clothes. And the people would point at them, calling them canaries. I can remember that I was surprised by some conversations that I overheard in my baths. Dachau ist nicht weit weg. Dachau, non è lontana. Dachau, nie daleko. Dachau, n'est pas loin. I heard this sentence over and over again in a Babylonian confusion of languages. Dachau is not far away, but what did that mean? People were evidently spreading the word off the record, and from their facial expression and from their body language, I understood it had to do with a poster admonishing them, silence about company secrets. There was something menacing, something that you had to be cautious about. These people, they were talking about their jobs in the munitions factories, and they were not to do so. And the menace was, should you be caught in the act, you would be sent to the Dachau concentration camp. Oh, what an infernal noise! In the late afternoon of April the 9th, 1945, I was scared to death by US bombers and fighter planes bombing the arms factories. The production came to a standstill. The forced laborers left the camp. I could clearly perceive this because fewer people were coming to my baths. And then, a few weeks later, hooves, horses' hooves in the camp. No, couldn't be. I had never seen a single horse in the camp before. People. Lots of people were making this hell of a noise with their wooden shoes as they were dragging themselves along. They were in an appalling state. Now they were entering my house and they were spreading an awful stench. It made me sick. I could hardly breathe. Who were these emaciated and battered people in their striped uniforms, soaking wet from the snow outside? Imagine, it was May the 1st, 1945, and it was still snowing. And they were shivering from the cold and the exhaustion and the malnutrition and serious illnesses such as typhoid. Some had managed to get themselves something to eat and had hastily devoured whatever they had got hold of, even chicken feed. But their famished bodies couldn't take the food, and they were very sick in my sanitary facilities. Their death march from the Dachau concentration camp had come to an end in the vicinity. They had entered my house to wash themselves for the first time in how many months? For how long had they not had the opportunity for personal hygiene? The waters in my veins could help give back some dignity to these maltreated people. And water has such a symbolic meaning, doesn't it? It's a source of life, of purification, of transformation, of rebirth, of renewal, of spiritual purity, of life-giving power. And it's important in ritual acts. And water I could provide. In the following weeks and months of summer 1945, I witnessed restless comings and goings. In my baths, I saw shuffling, traumatized, screaming people with their prisoner numbers on their arms. Some of them would commit suicide. And they were still wearing their striped uniforms, and some of them even SS uniforms, as there was nothing else. I was now a bathhouse for broken souls. The whole camp was a reception center for ruined lives. Once I overheard this conversation. Where are you from? I don't know. Are you from Dachau? From everywhere. From Dachau, Auschwitz, Treblinka, Bergen-Belsen, Sachsenhausen, Majdanek, Sobibor. Have you ever been a host to an American president? No? Well, I have. In fact, I hosted the 34th President of the United States. Who was that again? Yes, you're right. President Eisenhower. Well, in fact, in September 1945, he was a president-to-be. His official position then was US General Eisenhower, and he was also military governor in the American zone of occupation. And he was also a representative of the United Nations in Germany. His visit to the camp was prompted by a strongly worded cable from President Truman directing him to institute reforms to improve the living conditions of the displaced Jews in the American zone of occupation. The visit was a major public affair, well documented with footage and photographs. I benefited from this because I have a picture in my possession showing President Eisenhower, well, not president then, General Eisenhower, walking out of my belly, accompanied by his entourage and ready to embark his limousine that was waiting for him on Pennsylvania Street. Yes, Pennsylvania Street. Since the Americans had taken over command of the camp, they had changed all of the street names, and my official address was now Independence Place. But as I stand at a junction overlooking another street, I had a street name sign nailed to my shoulder, Pennsylvania Street. A few months later, in December 1945, there was another very important visit to my house. Another representative from the United Nations came to inspect my insides. They were discussing some kind of conversion of one of my organs, and indeed, shortly afterwards, builders did convert one of my organs into a ritual bath, into a mikvah. Rabbi Halberstam, one of the residents, the famous so-called Klausenberger rabbi from a Hasidic family, he had been seen performing his ritual duties with 250 followers in the ice-cold nearby River Isar in its dangerous currents. They brought in snow and lots of snow, lorries of snow, and filled the basin of the mikvah with snow, thus fulfilling the requirement that a mikvah must be filled with living waters. By 1963, I had undergone major surgery, and all of my organs had been removed, including the mikvah. Today, there is a picture and a text about Rabbi Halberstam. He said, "I have lost everything, but not God." And indeed, he had lost his wife and 11 children in the Holocaust. The tour guides today tell my visitors his profound religiousness helped him survive the Holocaust and take care of the Sherit HaPleta, the surviving remnant. That's what the surviving Jews called themselves. Men då kan man allt rein gut. Robbie and his friends, 10-year-old boys, who would talk to each other in Yiddish because that was their common language, would sneak up to my house on women's bathing days. Yes, my sister had meanwhile stopped functioning as a bathhouse for women, and I had taken over. So on women's bathing days, these boys, they would sneak up to my house and peek through a glass brick in one of my walls and watch the women having their baths. Oh my, what an excitement that was. There was another boy, Benno, in his early teens, Benno Salamander, who would come to my baths with his father, Samuel, once a week. Benno and I, we have something in common. We both had to deal with a change of names in the course of our lives. For me, it was my 3 different addresses, and for him, it was his 3 different first names. Benno was born as a Polish refugee child in 1944 in Turkmenistan. And he was given the Yiddish name Berl. The Soviet registrar, he changed this name on the spot. He changed it to a Russian name. So Berl was now Boris. Upon registration at the DP camp, the German authorities decided that Boris sounded too foreign, and the infant was given his third first name, Benno. Benno wrote a book about his childhood at Camp Föhrenwald, and I'm in it. He writes, "My father and I, we came to the bathhouse once a week, enjoying the warm water that the assistant had heated up for us. I've forgotten the assistant's name, but it was a lean man, non-Jewish, and his job was to heat up the water for us. After the death of this man, they found his blood group tattooed under his armpit, as was required for members of the SS. Benno, Robbie, and his friends and their friends had come to the camp with a new wave of residents from winter 1945 onwards. The new residents, they were so very different from the concentration camp survivors that had been coming to my house the last few months. They were much younger, much healthier. They were families with children. The men had side locks and beards and long black coats. The women were wearing headscarves. These Jews had survived the Holocaust in Eastern Europe under very different circumstances. Underground, in hiding, on the constant run, and even at safe places very far east, as was the case for the family of Benno. And with the newcomers, a new spirit, a new drive, a thirst for life spread in the camp. The newcomers would start businesses, open shops, organize performances, sports events, concerts. And all of the women were pregnant. I could watch this vibrant life all around me as I was standing at this very central position of the camp. I saw the merchants with their sales vehicles pass by my house. Across Independence Place, there was a corner shop, the post office, an ice cream parlor. And on Independence Place, there was this group of men who would gather around a pole that the Jewish population had put up and to which they had fixed a metallic Star of David that would reflect the sun and that would shine brightly so that everybody could see it from afar as it was towering above the roofs. They would stand in a circle around this pole and discuss and find solution to world's politics. For 12 long years, from 1945 to 1957, I served as a bathhouse in a Jewish shtetl, in the last Jewish shtetl on European soil. Halt! Was macht ihr da? Stop! What's going on there? I shouted in the middle of a night in 1956. And I felt so powerless as I was firmly rooted to the ground and unable to intervene. I was watching a group of settlers, the new residents of the camp, who were replacing the Jews who were gradually leaving to the United States, to Israel, to Australia, to Canada, and other receiving countries to start new lives there. The new settlers were Catholic German expellees from Eastern Europe who had been expelled from their home countries. They had been displaced for 12 long years. But here they were, and I was watching them saw down the pole that the Jewish population had put up with the Star of David on the top. The Star of David, the symbol of Judaism. And in this camp, a symbol that was creating identity. There was a commotion. The vandals took to their heels, leaving the star in the dirt on the ground. What an infamous act of desecration. Shortly afterwards, there was another very sad day in February 1957, as the last Jews had to leave the camp. Thousands of displaced Jews had lived here in the country of the perpetrators. Some of them had stayed here for only a few days, some of them for weeks, some of them for many years. For them, it was merely a waiting room. Some of them, most of them, could hardly bear living here and were only waiting to move on to other countries and to start new lives there. As the lorries on this day in February 1957, as the lorries with the belongings of the last Jews passed by my house, I waved farewell with a very heavy heart, because I knew that these Jews who were still here, they were so unwell that no other country would take them. And they would have liked to stay here in their Jewish shtetl because they felt safe here. And bang, ouch, a new street name sign was nailed to my shoulder, Kolpingplatz. My new address was Kolpingplatz. All around me in the camp, the houses were being refurbished, bathrooms were installed, and I realized that I had completed my services as a bathhouse for the camp. I was now in retirement. I went into hibernation, I was neglected, and in no time, the story of my early adult life was erased. And even worse, the entire history of the preceding period was forgotten. By 2012, a persistent group of local volunteers had unearthed the meaningful history of the settlement and of my building. And they had developed the vision of a place of remembrance in my building. I was sold for one single symbolic euro. And I underwent a thorough facelift. And after many operations, I was turned into a presentable place of remembrance. Next year, I'm going to celebrate my 85th birthday. Please save the date and be my guest.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, or should I say Badehaus. Thank you so much for that beautiful story. I'm quite teary right now. Let's take a breath and just take a moment to let the story fully drop into us, those last images. Give Stephanie a moment to take a breath after just such incredible work. Stephanie, may I give you some appreciations, please? Is that okay with you? Oh, I think you're coming off mute. And I want to invite everyone in the chat. You can write any appreciative feedback you want to give to Stephanie after or as I'm talking. That's totally fine. Now feel free to be on the chat. So Stephanie, I wrote so many notes, but I'm just going to talk from the heart because I know a lot of people are also going to want to share. And we will invite folks, we just want to let you know, we will invite you to share aloud, a few of you to share briefly your appreciations directly, but you can also do this right here as Sherry Heller just did, phenomenally and creatively told. Well said. So Stephanie, I felt that you were giving this incredible dignity to the Badehaus, and I can't imagine who could be a better person to do it as someone from Germany like you, who has spent so many years volunteering, who is so intelligent, and who is so willing to put in the research and has the skills to do so, and is such a lover of history and of humans and of the Jewish people in particular. So this came together not only in Stephanie, but through Stephanie, the Badehaus, the bathhouse itself, got to speak its pain, its wonder, its awe, its depression. It was such, just like you are, such a sophisticated and compassionate being. And you brought me into one place that took me to so many places, that had connections, not only to the people who actually came in through the doors of the bathhouse, but who were attached to people in all these other countries, in the Jewish community and beyond, involving, for your audience is probably half American here, and to involve Eisenhower, and to talk about Pennsylvania Street, to share that these signs were placed on you and you could feel how you felt about those different signs. The part about the star and the pole and seeing that glinting in the sun, and then hearing your, calling out in your, native language, German, as the bathhouse, saying, stop, don't do that. What are you doing? You can't do that. It was just particularly poignant for me. Not only that you said it and felt called to say it, and I'm talking to you, Stephanie, and and you, the bathhouse, but also that it was in German. The way your use of different languages, use of Yiddish, the sharing of the rabbi and the mikvah, talking about your organs, like it was really pieces of you that were being refurbished. You were so, we talked to people in storytelling about taking in the story and really being there and being present in the story, having the story inside of them coming out, and you just epitomize that with your storytelling. So I'm going to stop here because I have pages of positive notes, but I'm going to let other people share. Lynn, do you want to take us off, just the two of us? And I want to invite Lynn, would you like to share? Because Lynn, as a historian, I'm sure she has a lot to say. I'm going to let her share first, and then we'll go on to other people. If you want to share, you can put up your little yellow reaction hand, or you can put up your physical hand, and we'll call on you after Lynn.
Stephanie.
I'm going to spotlight you.
First of all, vielen Dank. Das war wunderbar. I can't even. That was amazing. The way that you took us, you Badehauser, because you became the place, of course, through the story. The way you took us through time was absolutely fantastic. And through this, you allowed our audience to learn about so many important historical points, from forced labor, from the death marches and how that affected that sentence, horses in the camp, and then realizing, because even I stopped and said, horses? No, maybe it's a horse and carriage, maybe, like, the minute I realized that we're actually talking about the clogs that the inmates wore while they were marching to God knows where, that was that was so powerful. The whole story is very powerful. I love the progression. I love your pauses. And as Jennifer said, the mix of languages and yet translating so that everybody can follow was beautifully woven together. In Yiddish, we say, I'm quelling. I'm like, my whole heart is coming out to you. This is beautiful. Thank you so, so much for doing such a beautiful and wonderful job on this story and for educating us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. All right, so I'm going to take
you.
everyone off of, take Lynn and Stephanie off of Spotlight so we can really open up the room. And I see Dorothy's hand first. So we have time if each, we won't have time for everyone, but if people want to say something 30 seconds, 40 seconds or so, then we can get to a bunch of people. And then we're going to share with you some photographs, specially selected from the Badehaus archive and other sources from Stephanie. And she's going to share with you some of the photos so you can even more see what you already saw.
We have
Dorothy and then
Dorothy,
Judith.
Judith, and then Violet also had her hand up.
Oh, great.
So,
Thank you. So Dorothy, Judith, then Violet in that order, Lynn?
yes, please.
Great.
Okay, well, everything that everyone else said, I just will say again, since I only have 30 seconds, it was amazing. It was so real that I felt like I was there. And I just gonna add this on a personal level. I know that my mother was on a march like that, not the particular one that you're talking about, but I never knew what it was like. And your description was so vivid to me that I could actually see her on her march. And because she even talked about stopping at camps on the way. So I thank you for that because it was just so amazing and so vivid. And it shows that your work and your story have true impact on those that hear it. So thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you.
Judith.
Stephanie, thank you so much for teaching us in a very special way. I want to share one experience that I had while you were telling me. I had this vision when you were talking about the people coming in your doors, that you were like an X-ray machine or an MRI, and you watched each person and saw everything that was part of them without having a judgment about it and being able to tell their inner stories like an MRI. And for me, that was just a really nice way of looking at it. It made it full and complete to me because of my understanding of physiology, but to think of each person as that whole thing that you could see their past and their future, it was beautiful.
Thank you, Judith. We'll have Violet and then Chava.
Stephanie, thank you so much. From the moment you began your story, I was in that building. Having you talk about your sister, it took a minute, and then I went, oh, of course. Every bit and piece that you laid out opened up a time and most definitely a place. Thank you so much for sharing. And I look forward to one day visiting the place of memory.
Hold the date, Violet.
Yes.
So
I
we're
didn't
gonna
get
have
the date, but I want to make sure we know what it is.
yeah, we'll do that. Chava next, and then Karen Weber.
Chava, please unmute.
Okay, I think I did, right? You can hear me. Okay, Stephanie, wirklich vielen Dank. Sie haben mich so wirklich hingerissen. Sorry, I mean, for all you know, I've been in contact quite a lot with Stephanie. I've lived the first 5 years of my life in Fernwell, but I must say, you just brought it to life for me. I mean, it was a place at the beginning, I didn't even know exactly the name. For Jews, it wasn't Fernwald, it was Fernwald. And it took some time until I really learned the name, but also the story. Part of it, of course, I know, but the way you told it, I just felt you telling it to me. You were in the Badehaus, you were in the middle of it. And really, I think you hear the way I talk. It just really touched me in a way that I never thought it would. Because again, everything about Fernwald for me became to life really much later after I started visiting, after I learned the story, because again, as a child, I have tidbits, little pictures that I remember of it, but really didn't really have the whole story until worked on for the book and other things, where I slowly learned also the story of what happened before and what happened after. But the way you told it now, really, thank you, thank you, thank you. You touched me in a way that I never would have believed.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Chava. That's beautiful.
We're gonna have Karen, and then we're gonna have to go into our next part where we get to see the pictures and hear some about the sources. But please, after Karen, please keep writing in the chat as you have appreciations. Karen, thanks, Chava. That was lovely.
Hi, there were a lot of lovely moments. One particularly exquisite moment was about the snow in the mikveh. Because I love details, that was just a little tiny pearl that stayed with me. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen, so much. And that reminded me, Karen, when you said the snow, the water, that whole section where you talk about so poetically about what water does, and that this, I had this in my veins, this I could provide. So, thank you so much. All right, Stephanie, we're going to turn things back over to you so that you can share with us a little bit about your process of creating this in addition to the slides. You, of course, talk about the slides too, but if you want to say some other things about creating the story, that is fine.
Okay. One after the other. First of all, thank you very much for all of your appreciations. That means a lot to me. And Lynn, apparently your idea with me being the Badehaus, it was an experiment. We didn't know at the beginning, but apparently it was a success.
It really was. It's amazing.
So first of all, and I would like to say thank you to Teach the Shoah, that the Badehaus, a German, a non-Jewish place and association, that it matters to you to teach the Shoah, a Jewish association. My process, let me share only 4 ideas. How can you cover 80 years in 20 minutes? Obviously, I had to make a choice. And as I was telling a story for Teach the Shoah, I focused on this period, of this historical period. The period after the DP camp was only mentioned marginally, telling the story of over 15 million so-called German expellees, some of whom found a new place at Camp Föhrenwald after they had been expelled from their home countries. That would have to be done separately. The history of the Badehaus as a functional building is not yet documented or researched in any scholarly or academic piece of work. Of course, the basic outline is presented in our exhibition, and it was created by our historians. And obviously, I used this as a framework, and it was the backbone of my story. I would have loved to be a scholar and to go to archives and do some further research work on relevant facts of the Badehaus, but lack of time didn't allow that. So I had to piece together little bits of information and anecdotes that were mainly or mostly saved and recorded through oral history. And that was a bit of, well, it was a constant question. How can you rate oral history? What about historical accuracy? But at the same time, storytelling is a very creative piece of work. So I allowed creative license come in. And for example, the conversation that we heard about 2 unknown persons in the camp who were talking about where they had come from, that has been recorded through oral history, as it apparently had taken place at the camp. And I decided that it had taken place at the bathhouse. Or maybe it was a conversation between the men gathering around the pole. I don't know. And finally, I would like to say that throughout my engagement with the story in its historical context, I strongly felt that I wanted to connect it to the current political situation in Israel and worldwide. And it disturbs me and unsettles me that I haven't yet found a way of linking them. Our mission is never again, but never again is happening right now, as we all know. I'm sorry that I'm ending my statement with this question mark, but thank you to all the participants here all over the globe that you've come here tonight or today, wherever you are. Thank you for our mutual respect, and we are no doubt working on the same cause. That matters to me and that encourages me. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
And now the pictures.
Yes, so could you tell us a bit about what we're looking at?
Yes, here we can see the two bathhouses on neighboring plots. And as you might see from the location plan, there is one single road leading into the camp. Anybody who wanted to enter the camp could only do so via the gatehouse. You would have to show your pass and then you could enter the camp. And the road was leading right towards the two bathhouses. And maybe you can also see there is a fence around the camp. It was there apparently throughout the time of the DP camp. This is a picture from the very beginning, 1939. Yes, we can move on. Yes, we can see the bathhouse in the background. And I thought this is an interesting picture because it shows the Nazi architecture that I was describing beforehand. Next. Yes, it was strictly forbidden to take photographs of the death march or to give food to the prisoners. You were shot dead on the spot. So we don't have any pictures, but we've got this memorial, this model of a memorial. The memorials, the 20 memorials are much bigger. They are placed along the route of the death march, and one of them is even placed at Yad Vashem. So Lynn, you can check.
Yes, it is. I've seen it.
You've seen it.
Yes.
Yeah, next. Yes, here's the bathhouse again in the background, and we can see the pole. Unfortunately, the Star of David is not visible. I don't have a picture of the Star of David, but I think I can see a flag. It might be the flag of Israel. I think it is. Maybe it was, they were celebrating the Day of Independence. Yeah, here's the picture with Eisenhower walking out of my belly. And we can see him in his military uniform, and we can see the photographer in the foreground. And the two women, they're not visible very well, but there are two women. One of them is, yes, one of them is the Canadian representative, Jean Henshaw from the United Nations. And it was her who made sure that the mikvah was installed. Yes, next. This is a similar image. It's not Eisenhower this time, it's General Morgan from Great Britain, also representative from the United Nations. And I think this is very interesting because you can see all the signs put up on the house, and it gives us information about the house. And the sign on the top in Hebrew It's in Hebrew and in Yiddish, Lynn told me earlier, and it says that the house is a clothing store. Yes, and this is one of my favorites. We can see the Badehaus on the left. We can see the shops that I was pointing out earlier, the ice cream parlor on the right. It says ice, the post office in the middle, and the corner shop. The boy in the foreground is Chaim Becker. He is no doubt, I'm pretty sure he was a Paul of Robbie. They were of the same age. And he's walking along Pennsylvania Street, and in the background, and this is information for Chava, we can see New York Street. And Chava, we can also see your house, because Chava, she lived on New York Street. Am I right, Chava?
Yes, yes, you are. Yeah. Number one, New York one, yes.
Ah, right at the beginning. So here we can see the Badehaus after its hibernation. The volunteers had taken over and have started to refurbish it. Yes? And here we can see the Badehaus today. As I said in my introduction, the Badehaus is a place of remembrance. On the top left, you can see the Forest of Remembrance. This is the room that is dedicated to the stories of the individual residents. So Chava's stories, and Shoshana, I've seen Shoshana is with us today as well. Shoshana's and Chava's stories are saved here in the Forest of Remembrance, and of course of many other people as well. And we are a place of encounter. This we can see on the right. Here we've got rabbis from the, what is that called? The Conference of European Rabbis, which took place in 2022 in Munich, and they were visiting. And on the left, we are also a place of learning. And on the left, we can see visitors who are having a workshop with me, actually, and we are engaging with historical pictures. And the last slide is from August 2024. Shaila Haman, who was born in the camp and who now lives in Israel, he was visiting and he was donating this suitcase to us, the suitcase with which he and his mother and his father emigrated from the Badehaus to Israel in 1948. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was fantastic. Oh, do we want, I know it is 2:02. Lynn, do we have time to at least show the slide of the sources?
Yes.
We're a little behind schedule, but this is incredibly important. So
Well, we started 4 minutes late, so
exactly. So we're right on time, Lynn.
we actually have another 2 minutes.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have many sources for Stephanie's story. When we build Holocaust stories, which are historically based stories, we always need to rely on sources, as Stephanie's told us. And these are the sources Stephanie used. We have second page based on all the oral history that Stephanie listened to, combined, worked with to help her create this program. Shall I do our last slide?
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah.
Okay. So
and we have one last slide where you'll see our contact information. We'll do the very short guided imagery. Before we do, I just want to thank Stephanie so very much. She put in, you can imagine, in addition to all the wisdom she had already attained from years of volunteering and research and all her education work at the museum, she did so much more these past few months, and it was a joy, Stephanie, to work with you. Really, really a privilege. Thank you. So
before we go into guided
Sure.
imagery, we are aware of time. So if
Yes.
anybody has any questions, after we do the official closeout, please stay on, ask a few questions before we start the workshop part. Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah. And Stephanie said she's able to stay for the workshop part. So,
Okay.
yeah, so it'll be great. All right, everyone. So you're invited. If you want to turn your cameras off, you may, or close your eyes. Let's just take another breath and allow all our learning, the learning we're conscious of learning and the learning that has slipped in beneath our conscious radar, but just as deeply has come into us and become woven in who we are and our knowledge of this history. Let's breathe that in, breathe that out, and let's breathe in the appreciation for Stephanie, for the Badehaus, for the compassion and the wisdom that came to us today. Take in all that you wish to take in and let go of for now. Anything that you feel like you need to let go of, especially for those of you going into the evening and into sleep, knowing that you can pick up your learning again tomorrow and you can continue to learn with us. Let's do one more breath in. Let one more go. Feel ourselves settled in our chair and moving forward into the rest of our evening. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. And we'll put up our last slide with our contact information. And if you can stay on for some Q&A and the little teeny workshop, we invite you to do so. If you have to go, we hope to see you again at a Teach the Shoah program soon, maybe a Badehaus program soon.
So on behalf of Teach the Shoah, Dr. Deborah Fripp, our executive director who's not with us today, our VP Violet who's here, Jennifer, myself, and Cantor Weber who is also here tonight, we thank you, and especially a very, very big thank. Vielen Dank, Stephanie. That was amazing. Please stay in touch with us. You can find us on email, Facebook, and through our website. This program has been recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, which is YouTube Teach the Shoah.